Babylon the Great is fallen. Giving all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Kakodash. Right now we're in, as of last night, we are in the new moon, and we are also in the trumpets, the memorial blowing of the trumpets, which is a celebration of all the new moons of the year. This would be the top new moon, if you will. Anyway, so we're in the Sabbath, new Sabbath cycle. As of 9/6 or September 6, 2021, the year of the coming of the hastening of the coming of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. That's when the new moon came in. So I was going to go into Revelation 18, one of my favorite chapters, and I came across a video that Apostle Orion Lab was doing, entitled "The Mistress of," I believe. You can go to that, and he was going into Revelation 18. As I was even thinking about it, and said I want to do a video on it. I'm not going to go through the whole breakdown. I might come back and do that. You know, if people want to understand other parts of verses of Revelation 18, you can come on the comment board. Anyway, it's a fairly simple breakdown, but it's straight and to the point. That's why I love this chapter, and I meditate on it quite a bit, because this is the actual end of Esau's system. Anyway, I'm kind of jump around. Anyway, it says the first verse, "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, has become the habitation of devils." Now, High Priest Ariel used to teach that this is when Esau, 14, 15, 1600s, when they came over here and they took down Gad, that's when these devils came in. That's not talking about that. And it never sat with me when the High Priest Ariel taught that. What this is talking about is when this system goes down, when the missiles hit, when the angels come, when the Lord, Michael, the archangels, and an innumerable amount of angels come and destroy this place, Babylon the Great. And that the deliverance will take place simultaneously while this place is being destroyed. You had a couple people come on one of my videos, a couple of my videos, asking about the rapture before the Great Tribulation. Well, it's rapture, if you will, which is not even biblical. That's a word that Esau came up with. Rapture is not in the scriptures. But rapture means to take away, loosely translated. And so what they're saying is there's going to be a rapture, and then there's going to be a 7-year tribulation. There's not going to be no 7-year tribulation. The so-called rapture and the so-called tribulation is going to take place all at the same time. Concurrently is the word. Anyway, it says, second verse, Revelation 18, verse 2, "And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit So devils are talking about spirits, if you will. And the whole of every foul spirit, animal, desert-like creatures, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Unclean bird is a scavenger. So if you go to any desert on the planet Earth and you put animals in the desert, you're going to get these same animals, these desert-like creatures. It says in the third verse, for all nations have drunk of the wine. Now, drunk of the wine of the wrath of a fornication, it's not talking about actual wine. It's talking about her philosophy. When you go back like 2,000 years ago, you had Rome, which was an empire, and you had people that were taken over by that empire became Romanized. During the time of the Maccabees and Antiochus Epiphanes, you had our people become Greeks or Greek eyes, for lack of a better way of saying it. Well, with America, you become Americanized. If you go around the world, let's say you go to Egypt to see the pyramids. If you were to take a picture of the pyramids and you pan the camera behind you, you're going to see these American-based businesses, especially the foods, the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, the KFCs, the Arby's. These big franchises are all around the world. In Japan and China. So these people became Americanized as just like they became Romanized or Greekized. You know, you see, I remember one time, this was maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when even before that, when the Chinese people became rich, and the car of choice was a Buick, which is not a rich man's car, but they equate being wealthy with driving around in a Buick, not a Lincoln or a Cadillac or a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce. They believe the symbol, you know, for opulence and being rich is a Buick. Because a Buick is the so-called all-American car. You know, GMC, Ford, Chrysler. Anyway, it says, third verse, for all nations have drunk of the wine. So the wine, we know the wine represents the philosophy, the thinking of this place, which is America. You come into a lot of money, Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, Japan, different parts of Europe. You live that life. You dress like you have a lot of these Japanese, Chinese, these various nations. How do they dress? They don't dress in their former garbs of the past. They dress like Americans. They wear suits and ties. They get the most expensive shoes that they can get. So they became Americanized. So they drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Fornication, when you look the word fornication up, it really means adultery. Porneia, which means adultery. If you lay with a woman that's married to another man, that's adultery. If a woman that's not married lays with a man that is married, that's not adultery. And this is something these wacky, tacky, stupid ass Christians, guys like Vocab Malone. I remember when Vocab Malone and his motley crew was down there confronting us, a woman had walked by. And we didn't look at her in a sexual way, we just noticed a woman walk by and we looked, and I believe it was Vocab that said, you gotta be careful. You know, that's adultery. And I attempted to explain to this clown that adultery, when the Lord made that statement, you know, it's sin and adultery to even look at a woman. Well, it's really talking about how can you commit adultery by looking at a woman, even laying with a woman that's not married. That's not adultery. Adultery takes place if a man if a man and a woman is together. They're dealing with each other. They're married. If you deal with that woman, you break wedlock. And the penalty of that is the quick death. See, you people in America, especially you Israelites, that's why I see why the Most High is going to take the majority of you Israelites out. Because you're all fucked up in the head and you're Americanized. That's why you got all out of, especially you conscious people. You conscious people are all fucked up in the head. And no Israelite should give them the time of day. The fuck you giving them the time of day for, man? The hell with them people. The Most High is going to get them chipped, and then he's going to dip them. He's going to chip them and dip them. Anyway, it says, now fornication means to go to bed, a nation going to bed with another nation, meaning they have relations, meaning they do trade. You know, they're allies. And it says for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of fornication. Now, how have they did that? It says for all nations. You might know only China and Arab, certain Arab nations, not all of them. The Afghans didn't make bullshit. Bullshit, Mr. Handman. The Afghans made a treaty with Esau. The people of Iran, the people of Iraq, the African nations. How do we know this? Because they're gonna come over. They're coming over here in another week or two for the General Assembly at the UN, which is in America, which is in New York, and they all sit down and they all have their nameplates. So that's them coming together. And most of them are wearing suits. Some of them are starting to wear going back to their gobs, their regalia. But a lot of them, some of them, most of them are wearing suits and ties. It said, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of fornication. So the wine, they became drunk off of the wine, which is the Americanization or the Europeanization or the westernization of this system. That's why most of the times you'll see them wearing suits and ties. It said, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of a fornication, meaning they're allied to these people. They make backdoor deals. I mean, I thought they're making a deal with the Taliban. I thought the Taliban, was the worst terrorist group out there. What the hell are you making a deal for them? Oh, they sat down with us and they're going to allow certain No. What happens behind the scenes? That's what you got to look for. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. The her is America, Babylon. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So let's deal with the word merchants.
Strong's G 1713, Emperas. Emperas.
Emperas, which means, that's where you get the word emperor. And it really means command, but it also means, like you have certain stores that are called a rug emporium, which is another way of saying rug merchant. But now when you go into that word, it means one on a journey, whether by sea or by land, especially for trade, a merchant as opposed to a retailer or petty tradesman. A retailer or a petty Macy's is a retailer. They get their merchandise from the merchants on the other side of the world, mainly China, India. That's where they get their merchandise from. So it's not talking about some guy that owns a hardware store down his block. It's not even talking about Macy's, because Macy's is a retailer. A merchant is more of a wholesaler in the biggest sense, because what the Chinese do when they come from the uttermost east to the west, they come in cargo ships with cargo. And there's a big mess over there now where the cargo's not coming in. Kamala Harris said, buy your Christmas gifts early, because they're looking at the fact that you might not get these, like when you go to BJ's and Sam's Club or Costco's or Walmart or any of these major big box. Hold up. Okay, this would be a part 2. Anyway, bear me for a minute. Anyway, let's come back. So now you understand why China, the world looked down on China. The rickshaw drivers and China was looked down, farm, mostly farm, agriculture, humble type people that even the America used for the building of the railroad from the east going to the west. And a lot of Moabites had died in building, helping to build a railroad system. They were basically slaves. So now you have, this happened after the meeting with Nixon back in, I believe it was 72. And if you look, you put in Nixon and Mao, you got pictures of them shaking hands and all that. And I'm trying to picture it in my mind. But anyway, when that happened, there was a great expansion in China for manufacturing, because it was cheap labor. Now, when you go back to the 70s, mid-70s, you had a gas crisis in 73, and then you had the Japanese imports coming to America. And the gas prices were went up high, sky high. I remember them going up like $2, and maybe a couple of months before that, the gas was like the regular gas, which was leaded, was 35 cents, 30 cents. At one time, it was 25 cents. And with that crisis, you had gas lines, and if you had a license plate that ended with an odd number, you come on an odd day, like on a Wednesday or Monday. And if it was an even number, you came on an even day, maybe Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever. And they had gas. I remember they had these lines to get gas, and then gas went up, and people didn't complain too much because they needed that gas, because you had to wait on a long line. And that was during the time period where these companies that you thought went out of business actually went on the other side of the world. All the major manufacturing companies, or the majority of them, are how can you say, the majority of them are over there, mainly in China. Those ships are coming back from China. So it goes on to say, of the wrath of fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Now, when I clicked on Apostle Aram Lab's video, he was going through delicacies. Now, delicacies, it said these nations, mainly China, the super rich, the newfound wealth of the Chinese people. You had maybe a poor Chinese boy from a poor family that became a billionaire. So what they do is they live that luxurious life, that abundant life. It says, and third verse, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the merchants of the earth, the other nations, mainly China. We're focusing on China. Merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And then I'm going to close on this. I'll probably come back. So I left off at the third verse. Let's see what happens. Because I believe Apostle Aram Lab had covered that. But the Spirit, this is the Spirit. So, okay, let me listen to the word here.
Strong's G 4764. Strenas.
Strenas. Which means excessive strength, which longs to break forth, over strength, luxury, eager desire. You want something. You don't want just no regular car. You want the best. You hit with Jake. Man, when Jake, this guy, I'll give you an example. And Yohannabar ran into him at what was that, Auto World, or in Long Island City. There's this big car dealership. I think it's called Auto World or something like that. He used to have commercials. But I've been there a couple of times, and you get lost in there. There's so many cars. There's literally thousands of cars in the lot. You got the new cars, you got the pre-owned, you got the used. So this guy Johnson, he was a light heavyweight, and I believe he had knocked out Roy Jones. Remember when Roy Jones was getting knocked out left and right? After Tarver knocked him out, he had a fight with Johnson, which was a Benjaminite, had a thick Benjaminite accent, and he knocked out Roy Jones on a Saturday night. And that Monday morning, he was at the Auto World, or whatever, the Major World. He was there looking at a Hummer He was looking to get a brand new Hummer. Why? Because they cut him that check. So the first, when Jay come in the money, when they hit the lotto, one of the first places, they don't go to the supermarket. They go to the car dealership. They go to the car dealership and they look for a house. They live in the projects. They're looking for a house upstate somewhere. Yeah, somewhere in Westchester. They might go to Connecticut. They might go back down south. These Benjaminites, they'll come over here and make money, whether they have a West Indian restaurant or they deal in drugs or whatever the case may be, and they make so much money that they build a mansion for cheap down there in Jamaica. Now, I had picked up one individual, Benjamite brother, and I picked him up. I took him to the airport, and in my mind I said, this guy might be he owns a Benjamite restaurant, right? So I said, well, what do you do for a living? Because he had a nice house in America, you know. And he said, I own I think he said 5 golden crusts. And one of the golden crusts that he owned, I used to go to all the time on White Plains, was that White Plains Road in the Bronx. And he was one of the owners. So we were getting to talking. And he said, look, man, here's my number. Give me a call when you come down there. I'm going to get you free food. You know, we like, you know, we chopped it up, you know. But anyway, this guy, and when he came out the car, I wanted to laugh because he had all the clothes that he had like a Gucci bag. He had all the shit that he wore was stuff like the shirt that he wore had to be about $150, $500. The pants, he had these shoes, everything was designer, man. Everything was designer. And the dude was happy. Why? Because of the delicacies. The matter of fact, like I said, let me go ahead and let you hear this again.
Strong's G 4764. Strenas.
Strenas. Which means delicacy. Delicacy. It also means luxury or eager desire. You desire to get this, you know. Oh, he was telling me that his door. He said, you want to know how much I paid for that door? He said $30,000 for the door of his house. And it was an impressive door. So if he paid $30,000 for a door, what was the cost of the whole house? It had to be a couple $1 million. Then he was telling me about the founder that had committed suicide. He knew what, he broke it down to me. I'm not going to tell you, it's not important, but he was suffering from a mental condition because he thought people were after him. And he said, man, you think I live good? The owner, oh my goodness. That man got a couple of houses in America. He got a couple of houses in Jamaica. You know, he was telling me of the wealth that he had. But anyway, the key word here is luxury, right? So let's deal with the word luxury. And then I'm going to close it. Okay, here we go. Okay, there's an article. LeBron James admitted he was the cheapest player in the NBA. I'm not paying for it. Well, that's good because he wanted to keep his money. That's that luxury. Don't let me go into Bhagwan Rajneesh. Inside joke. Okay, so let's go to Google. Luxury. Let's look up the word luxury. Shit, I supposed to be somewhere, but luxury, the state of great comfort and extravagant living. He lived a life of luxury. This one famous Israelite said, "You got to have the best." So he wanted luxury, and a lot of these people that sell out, they sell. You know that they sold out when they pushing a Maybach or a Lamborghini. You know, they living in a, oh, like happened to Comfy. Comfy was living a luxurious life. And the Most High took his ass out. Just like the parable, old fool, you thought that you were going to live. The parable of the man that broke down one barn and built a bigger barn. And the Most High called him a fool. He said, don't you know that this is the night of your death? So you died, and you didn't benefit from them luxuries. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.